Okay, I'm Moshe, coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. A lot of people don't like it that I'm Israel, Jew, because they think that we're gonna lie to them. It's the 23rd of December, 9:34 in the morning. No rain, sunny, and probably going well into the 60s. I'm going to go through the live stream now and make sure we got sound and picture. Put a couple of posts up while people are coming in. We're good. And I'll get some posts up real quick. Almost done. All right, a few people coming in. I would think we'll get a bunch of people today, but we don't know. Okay. Being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise in a second. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Today, we're going to cover a lot of war intel stuff. And then I'm going to go on and talk about the law and what a lot of people do and don't realize about the law. Okay? I'm not going to focus here on the churchianity people because they think the whole thing is done away with. Yet they keep coming up with theories that Yeshua is going to return on Feast of Tabernacles or Yom Kippur or something like that. But I don't understand how they could integrate the law is dead, yet Yeshua is going to return on a feast day. It sounds rather dumb to me, but they seem to concentrate on people that don't study the Bible for themselves. They use study Bibles and commentaries, and they listen to the guys with the big building. The bigger the building, the bigger the TV station, the bigger the social media channel, the happier they are listening to them. Okay. So, Iran is collapsing. I'm going to give you some facts about what's going on in Iran. Now, I'm not talking about a war collapsing. I'm talking about collapsing from within. Okay. Before we start, there's a prayer request for CM, Charlie Mike. CM, Charlie Mike. Prayer is for better work conditions and better health for CM and Uncle. So for CM, Charlie Mike, prayer is for better work conditions and better health for CM and the uncle. Okay. Iran uses a currency like America has a dollar and Europe has a euro. They have something they call the rial. In English, you'd spell it RIAL, but that's a transliteration. 777,000 rial equals $1. You got it yet? That's 750,000 roughly. Rial is the value of $1, which is not much anymore. That is catastrophic. It's reminiscent of World War II at the end and the days after. People would take a wheelbarrow and fill it with paper money to go to the store to buy a few groceries. Iran has screwed up. Although they produce oil, they have a gasoline shortage, and cars can't get enough gas. Serious. There's throughout the country of Iran, there's off and on power outages. So I don't know, they're running out of fuel. See, you could have oil, but maybe the stuff they're refining so you can put it in your car, they don't have that running right. Okay, so they're having power outages off and on all over Iran. And that is likely a function of the same deal why they don't have gas for the cars. They're not making it, they don't have enough. Schools are closing because there's no heat. Iran has cold weather. There's no heat. People don't want the kids sitting in a school all day with no heat. So they're closing. They're having general workers' strikes in some regions of Iran. They're protesting a million things, probably mostly economic working conditions. Employers are late on making payroll, things like that. That could kill a country. 57% of Iranian people are now experiencing some level of malnutrition. 57%, 5-7, because the money. They're not buying good food. They're buying the cheapest junk they can get away with. So maybe they're buying flour and making, flour and salt, a couple other things, and making bread. Or diluting soup or something. I don't know. 30% of Iran is living at the poverty line. That's about what it is in Israel, by the way. Yes. Good old Netanyahu. Banks in Iran have no money and they're closing. Or being shut down or self-closing. I don't know the answer. Iran had invested $50 billion with a B, $50 billion in Syria or various things, factories to make weapons, all kinds of stuff, and much of it was blown up by Israel. Most of it, it's gone. They lost $50 billion on that one. So now the Israeli government is saying that what we need, the Mossad guy was saying this, what we need to do, and Netanyahu, I believe, was saying it, it's through the government of Israel, it's not just some random politico doing it, that when the Houthis hit us, we need to hit Iran. Now, I was saying that over a year ago. You got to cut the head off the snake. But Israel didn't do it. Another attaboy for Netanyahu. There was a plan here starting October 7th. Believe me, all roads lead to Iran. And BRICS, too. And they didn't do it right, you know. It's obvious as all get up that Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen and the lunatic terrorist groups in Iraq backed by Iran, and there used to be the same lunatic groups backed by Iran inside Syria. And Iran was taking money instead of feeding the people medical and doing infrastructure. They were building weapons and feeding tremendous amounts of money into these terrorists. What Iran was trying to do was build a caliphate, which is an old, going back a long time ago in Islam, they would have huge pieces of land that today is comprised by many different countries, and it would be under, that would be the caliphate. And it would be under what they would call a caliph, who was half political leader and half religious leader. They have such a character in Iran since the 79 overthrow called Ayatollah Khomeini, I don't know, you know, that's the guy. He's the real, they call him the supreme leader of Iran. They don't call him a caliph, but in reality, that's what he is. So they failed. Hamas is deactivated, Hezbollah is deactivated, Syria is deactivated. Iraq is just sitting there trembling, waiting and hoping they get out of this thing in one piece, which I doubt they will. They're going to be overtaken. And Iran comes next. And Russia's discombobulated, and they can't do anything to help Iran. I don't think Russia's winning the war. It'd be nonsense to say Russia's winning the war. Ukraine practically daily, or even daily sometimes, strikes nicely inside Russia, targets oil refineries, ammo depots, command centers. They've hit Moscow more than once. You know, and what is Russia doing? Oh, a red line, a red line, a red line. Well, big deal. Is he still able to pour out destruction on Ukraine? Yeah, to some extent he is able to, sure. But so is Ukraine. So I think it's actually a match. And that shows us there's not much to Russia, and NATO knows that. And America knows that. They're very slightly impressed or not impressed at all over Putin's threats with red lines. They just ignore them and wipe their feet on them, don't they? Sure. They're not interested. So the latest thing is Putin is saying, I want to meet, well, Trump said Putin wants to meet with him, you know, as soon as he's sworn in. Meet with him. I don't see why Trump wouldn't. I don't know where they'll meet. I don't think Putin would come to America, but it could be. They'd probably find a country to meet in. What country that would be escapes me. I don't know. Trump knows the score with Russia and what they're really capable of and not capable of. And Trump doesn't like feeding weapons into Ukraine at huge price tags. Which is good for America economically. So Trump will probably tell Zelensky to give Russia the pieces they already have and end it. and put peacekeepers in the boundary there and let it go. No, Zelensky may say no, but I think Trump will lean on him heavily. And Trump will also give him some incentives if he abides. So it remains to be seen if there will be any type of a Ukraine-Russia settlement. It may not happen. Really, it may never happen. I don't expect anything great to come to this at all. So Russia and their red lines at this point is just nonsense, okay? That's it. You know, it's not going anywhere. The only way that Russia and Iran are going to get out of this, and Iran's not, because we know the prophecy in Jeremiah 49. Iran, Elam is Iran. It ain't getting out of it. And the only, way that Russia gets out of it is if China and North Korea decide to go in. And since Trump won the election, things with them have been winding down a little bit, with North Korea especially. No more funny missile tests in Japanese waters and freaking out Japan. And they still put ships and circle Taiwan and nonsense like that. The Chinese do, but it doesn't seem to be getting any. Doesn't seem that China wants to just jump in and have a war right now. Okay. They got they got hundreds of millions of people in debt in China. Their economy is bad. And they're worried because Trump's going to make it worse with sanctions unless they knuckle on to America, which China is most unlikely not to do. So, yeah, China's desperate. They want BRICS. They want to break America. So does Russia. So does Iran. So does North Korea. And a lot of other countries, many countries, want to do that. And Trump is saying you're going to get 100% tariffs. So there's tremendous motive to fight against America because America's trying to take control of the world on a much tighter level than they ever had. I'm going to keep talking about this in a minute. I'm just checking my notes. Iran not only has got all these problems I just listed, Iran is got political upheaval type problems called civil war, revolution. And I'm sure America, UK, Israel, NATO are helping encourage this. Okay, with the Houthis and all this stuff. Now, it is possible that Israel and or America, the UK, will provide a trigger for this revolution to pop off. So that brings us back to the Houthis. Oh, by the way, the Houthis have now taken credit for hitting the F-18 jet that went down from the Harry Truman aircraft carrier. I believe it was hit by the Houthis, not by the American friendly fire. They have control systems on their missiles that will not let them get a lock on an American jet and blow it up. So I seriously doubt that. The Houthis hit them with cruise missiles, other missiles, drones, all at the same time. The destroyers and the Harry Truman, and they were working avidly on it, and I think they messed up. They had some kid that was in the military for a year and a half working something, and he didn't get it right, and the missile got in and hit the plane. That's what I think happened, but we don't know. We don't know what happened, but I believe the Houthis did hit them. The Houthis have been improving their missiles. They've been reducing the size of the warhead. These are not your anti-aircraft missiles. They're ballistic missiles for ground-to-ground, and they did hit Tel Aviv. The first time we had a barely accomplished the takedown, and the second time it was even worse. Um, Now, if Iran goes into revolution, civil war, remember you got strikes, power outages, gas shortages, schools closing, banks closing, food problems, money problems. So if they get hit, even though it might only be the nuclear facilities by Israel, America, whoever, it would encourage the revolutionaries and they would gain more and more support. I don't believe they would be able to overthrow Iran because Iran is be very direct. They would just put tanks in the street and tell the people disperse, maybe use a water cannon. And if the people were persisting, then they would machine gun them to death with snipers sniping them as well. Like Tiananmen Square, the tanks have machine guns. And the guy just, put 400 or 500 rounds into the crowd, maybe 3 or 4 tanks, and drop 2, 3, 4,000 people. The rest will run home. And this would cause America and Israel and everyone else to beat the Civil War drum even harder because of the atrocities in Iran. But it would also serve the purpose of weakening Iran tremendously. Now, previous to this, it would probably be the case that somebody hit the Iranian nuke sites, Israel or America, probably both. Now, hitting Iran's nuke sites is not going to get you anywhere. They don't have a nuclear weapon today. And when you hit their weapon sites, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, but they don't have one anyway. But what Israel would likely do if they finally got their head screwed on straight and not just tap dancing for Biden, they would hit the oil and gas industry of Iran, and that would topple them into civil war, I'm sure. I can't guarantee it, but I think so. That would weaken them, atrocities would come up, threats would come up, and then there would be a number of excuses to attack Iran. They're mowing down the civilians, men, women, and children, all this stuff, martial law. And that's the end of Iran that way. And then apparently it'll get so busted up, according to Jeremiah 49, that people are going to just have to leave and get scattered into all the other countries. Now, the Iranian people, the Muslim hardliners there, have been, very comfortable. Iran is not an impoverished kind of country. There's a lot of wealthy people, quite a few driving, Range Rovers and Audis and, cars like that, living nicely, eating good food. And the majority of the people don't, but they don't have a street crime rate. It's pretty, very, very low. Not it was a nice country, assuming you didn't mind Sharia law, which would be unbearable for most people. But that's what they did. So, will Israel take this out on Iran? What the Houthis are doing? Iraq is doing nothing right now. They're quaking in their boots, trying to hang on. Iran's afraid to send large forces to Iraq and then go into Syria because it's not going to work. And Iran is nervous that these rebels say that we're coming for you because they were behind Bashar Assad. They made all this horrific stuff happen along with Russia. And the Taliban would move in on them, and then they're worried about America, the UK, NATO, Israel, and on down the line. So I don't think they're going to do much real anything to save Iraq or Syria. them negotiating with Donald Trump would be fairly ridiculous. Oh, Trump would listen to him, but Trump knows their full capacity. So Israel might have to take out some more radars. Now, you got the kind of radar that's going to guide missiles at a long distance, hundreds of miles. There's another kind of radar that maybe works 25 or 40 or 50 miles that's used to track aircraft, drones, planes, even missiles. And then a missile lock is placed on that bogey coming in and they blow it up. So those kind of smaller radars that would never reach Israel could still be there, so they need to be taken out. And that's not not very challenging. And then it's a free-for-all in terms of what we bomb. But I have a nasty feeling they're not going to hit the oil and gas right away, because that would be what would stop the war. Now, will the Houthis lay down their arms and become good actors because we hit Iran? Maybe, because Iran may tell them you got to cut it off. I don't know. It remains to be seen. The Iranian, all the terrorists are quite stubborn, and they really don't stop unless they have no more weapons. Then they try to make peace with you, like what's going on in Syria, the new regime trying to make peace with everybody, and then they could solidify their reign, build more weapons, and go on a slow path to destroying everybody again. Putin has a large amount of S-400 anti-missile, anti-aircraft systems in Belarus. I think it's in the hundreds, 200 or something. Just about 3 miles from the border of other NATO countries. And they have a similar situation going on in Kaliningrad. With a lot of troops and weapons there. Kaliningrad is actually part of Mother Russia, although it's detached from it. It doesn't have it's not, touching the border of Mother Russia. So Putin may, if he gets desperate, try to use Kaliningrad and Belarus to attack NATO. But, I think the American Pentagon knows quite well what he's up to and will hold him responsible. Ukraine is coming up with a wild move here. Of all the crazy things, Russia has a pipeline going through Ukraine to deliver natural gas to Europe, different countries in Europe, which need it for heating and other things. And Ukraine, Zelensky, the head of Ukraine, is now saying that he wants to stop the flow of Russian oil to Europe through Ukraine. Just put a valve in, I guess, and close it. I don't know what Europe's going to do. I'm not sure Ukraine cares what Europe's going to do. I don't know. He should, because they keep feeding them weapons. Now we have Trump making some very boisterous claims, and we need to analyze what Trump's doing. Okay, you need to know this. Trump is saying he wants to buy Greenland from Denmark, and of course, build for national security reasons and build bases in Greenland. Now, I have no idea if Denmark has any interest in that. If they don't, then Trump would probably want to lease for 100 years enough acres of space to create so I don't know where that's going to go. Now Trump is saying he wants to take back the Panama Canal. Now you need to understand this because it's not, when he says it like that, you don't get the whole picture. Let me give you the whole picture. First of all, when America pulled out, they gave the Panama Canal, which, when did they pull out? Around 2000, 24 years ago. They had two bases there, an air base near the canal, but some miles away. And they had I think it was a Navy base. They probably had Marines and soldiers or whatever over there. They had about 25,000 military in Panama. The base was very well built up, many, many acres, and fenced in, and they had, um, their own stores and restaurants, barber shops. It was a real base. You had everything there. So the people on the base, the military, could go into the community when they wanted to. They could go to, a bar, a restaurant, shopping, go to a beach, whatever. In those days, Noriega was the problem. But I don't think that many soldiers wandered around Panama too much. They probably went in a group and checked things out a few times and went here and there. They would probably stay on the base. There'd be athletic facilities, swimming pools. There was golf someplace. They had a way to play golf. I don't know if that was on the base or somewhere near there. They had a golf course. And that's what they did, and then they gave it up. One of the problems with the Panama Canal is as the ships got bigger, they went deeper into the water, and they were wider and everything. And the large ships, oil and grain and tankers for fuel and all that, and plus aircraft carriers of the new dimensions, they couldn't fit through the canal anymore. So there were a lot of big super tankers and big container ships and stuff. Even big cruise ships started around 2000. Even around 2003, they were running 150,000-ton boats. Now they're running, I think, up to 250,000 tons. So a lot of the more modern big cruise ships that could hold 4,000 or 5,000 passengers plus 1,800 crew wouldn't make it through there. So that's one of the motives that America just said, well, it's not that strategically important for us at this time, and we don't need to keep that many troops there. It was a lot of money, and they just said, here, you want the canal, it's yours. And they ran the canal, and they did an okay job running it. And I don't know when it started, maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago or something, or more even. They started building a second canal that was much bigger. They didn't get rid of the first canal, but they had the second canal, which could handle the very big ships. Okay, it was a big project. And Trump is saying that the Panamanian people are uh, charging the American flag vessels high tariffs to cross the canal. And I could see when you're dealing with the countries from Mexico to Argentina, okay, the whole thing, Central and South America, okay, the whole enchilada, they take advantage of Americans. There are a number of Americans they call expats that go to live in these countries, and that generally will have a horrible experience. Okay, some of them will learn Spanish or they know Spanish. Some of them have a fluency level of Spanish that's probably not 100%. That would be extremely rare for a foreigner, but they have probably 75 to 80 or 90% fluency. So the people can recognize that they're not one of their own. Just like you could recognize in America somebody from New York, I'm going to put some Earl in my car, where's my car, hey, I need a wagon in the supermarket. You'll pick it up, and you'll pick up a Southerner in the Northwest in Seattle, So they pick up that you're not from Panama, and they'll take advantage of you. They'll rip you off, cheat you, rob you, fraud you, everything. These people see Americans as a target to rip off. Okay? In every one of these countries, I'll tell you, in Argentina, it's much lower. In Chile, it's much lower. I don't know all the countries, but most of them it's really bad. Okay? You don't have a chance. They want you to speak Spanish in their country, but millions of them come to America and make America do everything in Spanish for them. They really are into ripping off Americans. Okay? And the only way you might not is some expats go down there, they retire or something like that, and they find some woman that's 25, 30 years younger, and they marry her, and the woman has a family. Well, then you're going to be exempt because you're part of a Panamanian family. But they consider it not just opportunistic to rip you off, they consider it their right. It's like mandatory. It's like there's something wrong with you in these countries if they don't rip off an American. I'm serious. So are they charging Americans higher tariff to use the canal? Probably. And Trump got mad because that helps that feeds inflation. Cost of goods sold goes up and all this stuff. So Panama uses the U.S. dollar for currency, so they don't have a Federal Reserve type bank or fiat money. Well, they use American fiat money. They don't have a Federal Reserve Bank. They use the U.S. dollar. There's another country that does that too. Which one is it? Costa Rica, maybe? Can't remember. There's no El Salvador. I think it's El Salvador and Panama use the U.S. dollar. Panama has no military, and Costa Rica has no military. El Salvador does. So Panama has no military. They got police, and the police got light machine guns, pistols, sniper rifles, nothing. Motorcycles, cars. They might have 5 or 10 tanks they use to defend the capital there's civil unrest or something. They got nothing. They got no aircraft. They got nothing. Nothing. No Navy, no aircraft, no Marine. They got nothing. So what does Trump have to do to take Panama over? Go back and reoccupy the base. I don't know what the base looks like. I think what they did is they took the base and it was housing the, for the enlisted men, there were barracks, but for the non-coms and the officers, I believe they had nicer houses and they turned them into private houses and sold them and kept the money and gave the people the land. And their Air Force base was, it's called Fort Howard. They did similar things. Would Trump really do that? Well, the Panamanians will scream bloody murder, and they might negotiate with Trump because much of their income stream, much, is coming from revenue from the Panama Canals. There's two canals, okay, and they both operate. So they would probably agree to reduce tariffs. So in other words, instead of Americans paying more, they would get paid less they would pay less for a number of years to offset the problem, maybe for 10 or 20 years. And maybe they pay 30% less or something, I don't know, 50%, depending how bad they were. So they're pretty bad, okay? Drug cartels are very, very active in Panama. Yes, the government's afraid of them. The Panama government's afraid of Nicaragua, which is very friendly with Russia and China and North Korea. And they got Russia, China have troops and military stuff there. And Nicaragua is, sort of got a communist kind of leader. And they're not far from Panama. And with the help of Russia and China, they could go take the Panama Canal over just by sending convoys overland. Panama has nothing to defend themselves with. A bunch of cops shooting 9mm is it. I'll be right back. So they could take the Panama Canal over in, I don't know, 12 hours, 8 hours. It'd be a joke. I'll be right back. Now, America is not quite squeaky clean with Panama either. When they pulled out, there was a sewage problem in the waters right by the shores of Panama. And it contaminated the waters. We were talking Panama City area or something. And People can't go swimming in the water, and they asked America to fix it, and America didn't do it. They pulled out. We're out. Um, then comes the embassy. America built an embassy in Panama many years ago, 20 or so. That's like a military base. It's got many, many acres. And the old embassy was maybe on 3 or 4 acres or something like that, or less. And they moved out of that embassy to go to the new embassy, and America tried to sell. They actually were selling, in the process of selling the embassy, the buildings and the land. And the Panama government screamed and yelled. They said, "What are you talking about? We didn't give you the land forever. We gave it to you to use for your embassy as long as you want. But you're not using it anymore. The land reverts back to Panama." So America's not so squeaky clean with them either. So there's a lot of resentment. You know, they like using the US dollar, and they liked it when they had the Americans on the base, because it would be most unlikely anybody would overrun Panama, because the Americans would stop it. And the people that lived in Panama that worked on these bases got paid. See, the American base is like American soil. So they were paying them a real wage. So the people working there, as a cashier, a table cleaner, or cook, or whatever, they were getting paid probably double the triple what the regular Panama people would make. So they were living high on the hog many, many years, you know. So Panama could even welcome them back. See, taking the Panama Canal back means you have to open the base on the Panama Canal to protect it. You can't just take I don't think Trump would just take the canal. So, but the base has been sold, so I don't know what the heck Trump's got in mind, okay? He could probably crank up another base and put 2,500 soldiers there, or 3,000, just to have a presence. He could maybe get the air base back and put 15 or 25 planes in there, and maybe 5,000 Marines or something like that. Keep a couple of warships, 2 or 3 around there, and that would probably send a message, because American bases in Florida can launch planes, and I don't know what it would take, 2 hours or something, or less, to be striking targets in Panama if it got invaded. So, it's easy for them to protect Panama, but I don't think he can do it without a military base there. Maybe he'll try it. I don't know. But Panama's not giving it back. There's going to be tension. And I seriously don't think Denmark's going to give Greenland or some Greenland to them. And Trump also went to Trudeau and referred to him as the governor, and is talking about making Canada a 51st state of America. And it says that America's going to get hit in her utmost parts, which makes me think Alaska, which connects to Canada. But would Trump actually annex Canada? I don't think there's enough prophetic time for that. That would take years. There's 2 ways to do that. One would be to conquer Canada and send 100,000 troops in there and put tanks in the cities and say, "This is America," and hoist the flag, like in Syria. And I don't think Trump would do that at all. So they have to get referendums and the permission of the Canadian. I don't think we'll ever see that. I don't see it. So what you need to learn here is that if Trump tries to do even 1/4 of the things he's saying he's going to do in a brief period of time, which he intends to do, you are going to see America go into sheer chaos, really. And I'll break it down. And the world. 100% tariffs on the BRICS people. Do you know the resentment against America for that? Do you have any idea how hated America will be over that? Hated. Much worse than they are now. And they are well hated. Very well hated. Okay, let's keep going. Then you have now he's saying, as far as he's concerned, in the United States, there's only two sexes, male and female. This transgender stuff is going away. So he doesn't want them in the military, and that means there'll be discharges in the military. Lots of them. Just what he needs. And that'll be rather immediate, I think. And the whole transgender thing, I don't know how many sexes America thinks or considers real now, but I can't keep track of it. It must be 6 or 8, I don't know, 10, I have no idea. So he's interested in that. Now, he's not saying he's anti-gay. Okay, he's not interested in anti-lesbian, anti-homosexual. That's not his emphasis. He's not interested in that. He's interested in the transgender side of this. Okay? And that's going to cause so much of a stink in America for millions and millions of people. The schools have been teaching the kids for years and years that this is okay. All the big corporations and city, county, state, and federal government agencies have been accepting this and catering to it. I mean, it's going to be, the repercussions for this are going to be massive. This alone could cause some type of a revolution. Just this alone. It's going to affect a massive amount of people. Sorry, yeah, I don't follow UFC. Uh, don't know anything about it really. Very little. Okay, so Trump wants to deport the illegals, which could be 30 million. If Trump took every airplane that exists in America, military, government, and all the airlines, it would take a month to ship out all these illegals. How is he going to get to the legal side of this? Because a lot of them have been given amnesty, and they have a court date in the 2030s, 2031 or whatever. You know, how's he going to do that? I mean, he's going to be breaking the American law. They have a right to stay here now. What does he do? Break the law? I don't know what he does. Trump wants to make the carry concealed weapons permits like driver's licenses. If you have a driver's license from New York, you can drive in every state of the country, Hawaii and Alaska are included. And if you have a driver's license in Arkansas, or Alabama, Mississippi, you can drive in New York. Now, what he wants to do is, if you've got a gun permit from Florida, Alabama, Missouri, Mississippi, and you go to California or New York or Chicago or other places, maybe Virginia, Michigan, and you got a permit to carry a concealed weapon from your state, you can carry that permit in all the 50 states. That's called reciprocity. They've been trying to get that passed for many years. Now, do you understand what life would be like in, let's just say, New York and California if people come in from other states that they call hillbillies, they call them rednecks, they call them all kinds of nasty names, like they call me all kinds of nasty names, right? Come into their communities packing guns. How these people are going to feel? There's not many people carrying guns around New York and California, although in recent years it has increased, but it's, I'm not so sure getting a carry permit in New York is very simple, nor California, but I understand it's more than it used to be, but they're not going to like it because they think they're their own country in a way. They have their own way of doing things. Now, California and New York are different, but they each have their own way of doing things, you know. So criminals flourish in areas where they know that people can't carry a concealed weapon lawfully. So if you're in Florida and you go to the supermarket, the Winn-Dixie or the Publix, a lot of them are open 24 hours a day, or they're open, almost all day and night. And some woman drives over there, let's say she's 74 years old, she drives over there at 11 o'clock at night and she needs something, right? And she parks. Now, the parking lot is usually well lit, and there's not a great distance between the parking lot and the store, but they don't have security guards watching the parking lot. And some of the supermarkets have a city policeman or county deputy sheriff working off duty in uniform, but he is normally staying inside the store watching the cash registers because the supermarket is controlled, is worried about some wahoos, some cowboys coming in with guns and emptying out the cash registers, which is close to the door. So it's very quick and expedient. They just, late at night they would have, maybe 3 registers open or something, and they just clean the registers out. They grab a few quick several $1,000s, and not gonna, I mean, if they got out with $8,000 or $10,000, that would be good for them. They're probably not going to monkey around with trying to get into the safe because it's time locked and everything else. But they're in and out. They're there maybe 2 to 3 minutes max, and they're gone. And they get back in the car, which is a stolen car. They drive it a few blocks away. They get out and they get into their real car. So people get the description and license plate of the stolen car, which they abandoned, 2 minutes or 1 minute away in another parking lot someplace else. And then they get into their real car. But they got to be careful where they drop the stolen car, because if they drop it in another store with cameras and stuff, they'll get ID'd. So they have to be more discreet and park the real car someplace where there's no cameras and people around to see it, and then they just drop off. The bad car get in, the good car hit the freeways and get, try to, as quick as they can, get 3 or 4 counties away, and then the manhunt is pretty dissipated, and, but by the time the cops figure out what happened and, get descriptions, and they're 60 miles away. So the police is not there to watch the parking lot. Nobody's watching the cameras in the parking lot. So they can't knock off the registers because they do that. In a lot of these high crime areas, they have an off-duty cop inside the bank also, so you can't knock off a bank. But what they can do, and you're talking junkies, very low-level jerks, they see an old woman, an old man walking around 11 o'clock, coming from the supermarket to the car. It's not hard to walk up on that person, and then they do the interview. Say, excuse me, can you help me with my car? Or something like that. It won't start. And they try to see what happens. Well, the old lady or the old man probably has a gun permit and is probably walking to the car with his hand or her hand on the gun in their pocket of their coat or their pants or something. Not displaying it, just having the hand on it. And when someone walks up, the woman's going to take the gun out and say, get away from me. See, now in a California, New York setting, they got great assurance that they could walk up on somebody and they're not going to get confronted with a gun. These criminals really have a fear of getting shot by law enforcement. They really are afraid of that because law enforcement could kill them and get away with it. And they don't like that. They're scared of that. I mean, they're very scared of that. And getting shot by a civilian. That's why they don't break into houses that much, because they're afraid of getting shot. Now, it does go on. Usually they'll ring the bell and they'll have a pizza box and they might have a Pizza Hut hat or something like that. And they'll say, yeah, I got a pizza, for you. Oh, I didn't order a pizza. Oh, this isn't the Spiegelberg house? No. Oh, and then they'll have an address. Say, could you help me find this address? They had to get you open up the door. Okay? And when you open up the door, comes the gun. Then comes the other one or two hiding on the side of the door in the bushes. And now you're tied up, laying on the floor. They might kick your teeth in, make you open the safe. And, but they're not going to try to just break into the door because a lot of people have a gun next to the bed or a gun here, there, and they go boom, 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 and then they start getting shot. They don't want that. They don't want to have a gunfight with you. They're not out to prove anything with you. They don't want to have a firefight with you. They just want to get your valuables in cash, and maybe you have stuff in your medicine chest they want to take because they're drug addicts, and get the heck out of there as quick as they can. Okay? So they don't want to go start kicking doors in, but if you're dealing, you'd have to find communities where people can't own a gun at home. And I don't even think that exists anywhere in America anymore. I mean, it might, but it's rare. I'll be right back. take into account deporting the illegals in the millions and millions and millions, which is going to cause a lot of disturbances. You put an end to the transgender thing. You start letting people carry guns in left-wing areas. He's going to send troops into the sanctuary cities and grab the illegals. The left-wing part of the United States is going to want to leave the United States. You're going to have not civil unrest when they're in the streets chanting and throwing Molotovs. You're going to have civil unrest in the form of legislatures trying to secede from the United States, which Trump won't let them do. Trump will go back to Abraham Lincoln, put a big black hat on and say, no, you're not leaving. And that could be a ruler versus ruler. And these are just some of the things Trump wants to do. I'm just trying to show you the left wing are going to go crazy. They're going to go absolutely nuts. They want an Obama. They want a Biden. They don't want this. And it's going to severely affect their lifestyle. You know, a lot of the nations in the world see this coming. America is going to be very unsettled inside the borders, not even getting into the sleeper agents. Why did China just order 100 million drones, a million drones rather, not 100, a million drones? They went to their own factories, I guess, and ordered them to produce 1 million drones. That's an incredibly insane number of drones. What are they going to do with them? Well, they're up to no good. I don't know what they're going to do with them. Something bad. They could launch drone attacks and send 1,000 drones at the same time. Nobody's air defense system can handle that. They could take out aircraft carriers, destroyers, military bases, country capitals. Usually when they launch drones, they also send missiles with them. They can launch these from Navy vessels against other Navy vessels of an opposing army in huge amounts. And the other country has no chance of overwhelming. Their missile defense system will be overwhelmed. Their air defense systems will be overwhelmed. And then the suicide drones start crashing into the ship. No more ship. very interesting. Changes warfare. Okay. So I don't know how Trump is going to be able to deliver on everything he's promising to do. I don't know, the internet shifted for a second. So the people are all pumped up on how great it's going to be with Trump. I don't know how great it's going to be if he makes it. Trump and Hamas in Gaza. Trump says, I'd be inclined to not require Israel to give humanitarian aid to Gaza. Now, that's what I said many times for months and months and months. How does that work? Well, Trump's trying to back up his comment to Hamas that if the hostages, which would mean all the hostages aren't returned by January 20th, they'll be held to pay. Okay. Bear in mind, taking civilian hostages is an international war crime. Bear in mind, you don't take another country's soldiers as hostages, you take them as a POW. Okay? And they have to be well treated. So, Trump's got the law on his side. How would that work? Well, the easy way to do it is no more humanitarian aid, kill the cell phones, kill the internet, kill the water, and kill the electricity. But we're not going to do that to the 2 million civilians. I don't think. If Trump wants hell to pay, then he would. Then all you do is wait. Now, Hamas has lots of food storage and water, bottled water storage, from stealing the humanitarian aid all these many months. But there got to be at least, as a minimum, 30,000 of these characters still alive there. The supplies they sold aren't going to last very long for 30,000 people. More realistic, Israel would move, say, the civilians in northern Gaza down to central and southern Gaza, like they do for bombing runs. Then put a military line up with tanks to stop the people from going back and forth. Then for northern Gaza, cut the water, cut the electric. No humanitarian aid, cut the phones. Cut the internet. So without internet and phones, their communication is greatly diminished. Right? So that's confusion. And how long are they going to live without food and water coming in? And make it a month out of it or something, or 6 weeks. Just wait till they run out. That's it. Then they could go on. You know, the mullahs could declare it a starvation jihad, turning them into martyrs, and they just starve themselves to death in protest. But I don't think that many of them would do that. So they'll have to give up. So they surrender. What do you do with them? The way things are in Syria, I don't think Israel could bring the Palestinians from Gaza into Syria. They won't want them. Nobody wants them. They're crazy people. They don't want them. So I don't think that'll work. So I don't know. Then you still got Hamas in Gaza. You could demilitarize them a little further. Are we going to take 30,000 and put them in prison somewhere? What for? I mean, how are we going to do that? You know how much money that costs? I don't know. It might get the hostages back. It might get them to turn their weapons in. I don't know. But Trump will try to make good on that, and that's going to be a fuse lighter, light a fuse down there for an explosion. I wouldn't be surprised if they could go 3 months without running out of food and water. Maybe that's on the high side. I'd say at least a month. Because Trump said it, now they're going to steal as much of the humanitarian aid between now and then that they can. So Trump might have been better if he didn't say anything. Might have been better. Okay, let me keep going with my notes. Let me delete what I covered already. There was a Guatemalan fellow in New York City in the subway station in Brooklyn, not on a train, I think it was in the station, who lit a woman, I imagine it was a random woman, on fire. So he probably sprayed Ronson lighter fluid or barbecue grill fluid or something, gasoline or something on her, and then threw a lighter at her or a match, and she caught on fire and was screaming, and she burned to death alive on the train station. He was sitting on a bench watching it and watched her burn to death, and then they caught him. That was a day or two ago, so be careful. There could be some Christmas terrorism going on. He was not part of the team. He was a lone wolf, apparently. So what I think Israel will do, based on what the Houthis did, is they'll attack Iran. They'll hit radar facilities again, anti-aircraft weapons. And I don't think Israel has the capability to hitting the nuclear sites sufficiently because of the weight of these bombs. So they might hit the oil and gas industries, some parts of them or something, which will encourage a revolution. Or they might hit the nukes first. Hitting the nukes first will do nothing. Iran will keep it up. If you hit the oil and gas industry, they'll be forced to do something. What are they going to do? I don't know. I don't know what Iran will do. They'll probably try to react to it, but what are they going to do? I don't know. So Trump is going to try to make good on his promises. That's his pattern. He didn't do the Obamacare. He doesn't even talk about getting rid of Obamacare, does he? No. Why? I don't understand that one. I don't quite get it. So yeah, the Houthis attacking Israel, attacking the shipping. Israel's trying to raise a coalition, and they're going to start attacking Iran. Maybe they feel that Iraq is contained that's so scared they won't do anything. I don't know. Saudi Arabia is getting mighty close to normalizing relations with Israel. But every time I think about it, I can't think of any value to Israel. I don't come up with anything. And we're not supposed to make treaties with the surrounding countries. So it's good for Netanyahu because he gets us to get into sin. But I don't see any advantage to the people of Israel. Oh, Saudi Arabia will buy weapons from us, so what? That won't fit down to the people, the elite that own these weapons companies will make out. And the government of Israel will get their taxes and they'll make out, but it's not going to help the people of Israel in any meaningful way. I could care less if we had any, you know, normalization with them. I would prefer we don't. I would prefer we don't have any relations with these people, no Abrahamic Accords. That's a horrible thing. It's against the scriptures, and Trump was the one that started it, against the scriptures. But the government is against God. The government of Israel, they don't walk with God, not by their actions. By their words, they might tell you they do, but their actions don't. Remember the parades they got through Tel Aviv and Jerusalem? Yeah. All right. So what I want to do now is going to be sensitive. It's about the Bible and the law. And I'm going to have to cover a few things because the Lord's been putting this on me for a few days. I don't like doing it because it can get people to run away from me because they don't understand. And I had one person run away from me the other day over a remark I made because this person doesn't quite grasp the picture. And this person, I believe, was burned by false pastors and preachers. And that's not, we all were, but some people have more trouble recovering from it, okay? And if you think I'm pro-churchianity or pro-churches, I mean, how could you possibly think that? I teach you and show you how to demon toss them. I illustrate their errors. I mean, come on. You know, that's absurd to call me pro-churchianity or to think that I'm going to introduce doctrines that the churches follow to you people. I never do that. Look, the church will tell you murder's a sin. So will I, so would the law. So there are things they occasionally stumble on that can have a little bit of a truth on it, but they're in general all evil and full of error and lies, okay? So how can I be pro-churchianity telling you that? I don't understand. All right, let's try to understand these things. You know there's another temple coming in Ezekiel 43, and you know that we're told in Ezekiel 43, these are the ordinances and the laws of this temple. Okay? So Moses' law is going to be modified for this temple. And we're told that in the Old Testament. And it's a modification. But we read of this temple also, like in Revelation 11, verses 1 and 2. This temple does appear in the New Testament. I believe, let me go to Revelation 11. I believe that's, I want to make sure I didn't get that one messed up or something, but I don't think so. Revelation 11, 1 and 2. And there was given unto me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and them that worship there. So it's the next temple. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, because it is given unto the heathen, and the holy city they shall tread down underfoot 42 months. So if we're talking about the holy city, temple of God, this is the next temple, okay? So it does appear in the New Testament, all right? And it has its own laws and ordinances, which are not what Moses told us to do, okay? Next, in this next temple, in Ezekiel 43 and chapter 45, we read of the anointed prince doing offerings inside the temple near the glory of God of Israel. That's new. The Kohanim, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest office is done away with because Yeshua is from the line of Judah. That's new and different, right? Right? Okay. So when the high priest goes, the Urim and the Thurim go, and the breastplate is not there. All that's changed. The garb for the high priest is changed. All right? In Acts 2, the Holy Spirit's given to the body of believers at large. Assuming they, have somebody pray for them to receive it or pray for it. They get baptized in water and they, are in the face and so forth. They receive the Holy Spirit, where previously the only people that would receive the Holy Spirit would be the king, the prophet, and the high priest, nobody else. That's another change from the times of Moses. Divorce. In the Old Testament, Moses said, you want to get rid of your wife, you just give her a get, a bill of divorce, and that's the end of it. Then you're free to go about your merry way. She's no longer your wife. Now, we're not allowed to do that anymore. It has to be for adultery, or if the spouse leaves you, works both ways, moves out, takes a hike, then you're under no obligation. Paul said that. So did Yeshua say that? No, Paul said that. So when you start saying, well, Paul said it, so Paul's no good, he had no right to say that, well, then you start going off. Okay? You start going off. All right? There were other ways that the law has changed as well. The nations, the non-Israelite birthline people that are in Yeshua, in Ezekiel 47, is called the strangers, get incorporated into Israel and the tribes of Israel. That was never the case previous. So that Mosaic law thing changed. Yes, they were able to live with the Israelites, take on the way of the Israelites, and become part of Israel, right? So it was there, but it wasn't there. It's a little different. Evangelism in the New Testament, go ye forth into all the world. Okay, that was not in the days of Moses. They were not doing that. But when Yeshua came, that started. Okay? Casting out demons, that was not in the Old Testament days, throwing demons out of people. Yeshua brought that in. That was a change. You see how many things changed? Quite a few. So when we say, Yeshua says, don't think that I came to destroy the law but to fulfill it. For as long as there is a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. That means the law in general. It doesn't mean Moses' law literally, because with Moses' law literally, there wasn't the temple, there was the tabernacle, there was a Kohen Gadol, a high priest. The Holy Spirit wasn't given to the people. The men could just issue a divorce to the woman, and on down the line. They weren't casting demons out of people. They didn't have congregations. It was very different. Very different. Now, we say the heavier things of the Lord, but I think when you're dealing with the Sabbath, you have to take that one with a great deal of sincerity or importance, maybe is a better word. First of all, you can't change the Sabbath because that's the day the Lord rested after he made the creation, the universe. So that day can't be changed because it's past tense, it already happened. So you can't change the Sabbath. It's Friday dusk, Saturday dusk, okay? And now there's, in the law, like going back to Moses and stuff, there's sacrifices, offerings that were made on the Sabbath by the priesthood. Well, that hasn't been going on for 2,000 years because there's no active priesthood and there's no temple or tabernacle or any of that. But I still think that we should not discard the Sabbath at all. And it's a holy, sanctified day, and you're not to work. So it means servile work. So let me ask you a question. If you're in the house and you got a 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old drops a big glass jar on the floor and glass goes flying across your room, in your dining room, will you wait till after Sabbath is over to pick the glass pieces up, or would you pick them up so nobody gets hurt? You're most likely going to pick it up. Is that your regular servile day-to-day work that you do all the time? Of course not. You had what's called an emergency, and it was a health hazard, and you picked it up. Okay? See, people can go to extremes. Now, it says on the Sabbath, don't kindle a fire, which means don't start a fire. If we take the approach that in the winter, when it was 40 degrees, or it actually could go below 32 at Jerusalem, because it's 2,500 or so feet elevation, that you could maybe Friday afternoon get a fire going, and then you don't put any more wood on it because you're going to consider that kindling, and then you let the fire go out, and your baby's going to turn blue and cold as a piece of ice, and you'll be cold, and because you're not feeding the well. With the days of Moses, one guy was running around picking up firewood on the Sabbath, and he got it dead. So if you take your firewood and stage it in the house, and then you take a piece of wood and throw it on your fireplace or whatever you're burning it in, I don't think you're kindling a fire. The fire was already kindled. You're just throwing wood on it. Now, when they kindled the fire back then, I don't think they took their Zippo or Bic lighter out and flicked it in. Took some old newspaper and got it going, and I don't think so. I think they were doing work with a flint or something, or maybe like the Indians with the rope and the cord, but probably a flint. And it was kind of work. So I think the idea here, I'm using this as an example to try to, you guys will be teaching other people and you have to avoid fanaticism. And I haven't really gotten into the deepness of the fanaticism yet, but we're a few minutes away. Okay. So I think that is um, the errors, kindling a fire. But, if you're going to kick against this, how did they keep their infants warm in Jerusalem, Mount Hermon, or other cold places in Israel in the winter if they couldn't feed the fire? See, now some of the rabbis feel, now we're getting into fanaticism, that when you push the button in your elevator to go from the fifth floor to the lobby, you made an electrical spark of some sort when you push the button. It could be true, probably. And that was kindling a fire. So what they do, now I'm going to put a heavy emphasis on the fanaticism and the idiocy that people get involved with the law, so you understand some things about the teachings of Yeshua specifically. So they have what's called the Shabbat elevator. They're in Israel. They probably have them in Brooklyn and New York, the Orthodox and stuff. But the way the thing works is, let's say sundown is, I don't know, 5 o'clock Friday, so probably 4 o'clock Friday or something like that. They set the elevator to stop at every floor. So if whatever floor you get, whatever elevator you get in, going up or going down, it's going to stop on every floor. Then the same spark is partaking, but they're saying you're free of it because you didn't do the spark. The machine did it. But you're setting the machine and the machine serves you, doesn't it? Yes. Now, you should not start your car or drive your car on the Shabbat because it too is kindling a fire, making sparks. Well, I don't think you should you should go driving on the Shabbat because it says stay in your own place, which I believe is your own village, because in Israel, they have these synagogues in the villages and the towns, and they try to keep a synagogue near the people to the tune of about a third of a mile. Now, it's not in the Bible, but the rabbis created a concept of a Shabbat day walk, which is about a third of a mile. And a lot of the people went to the synagogue on the Shabbat, including the apostles and Yeshua. Yeah, Yeshua himself went. Okay? Let me see what this is. So, when Israel's redeemed shortly and we got another temple and all that, people is not all going to live only in Jerusalem, right? I mean, that I don't have to explain. Agricultural land and whatever. So they're not going to just live in Jerusalem. We live all over the land. So the tribes have different geographical pieces. It's a scriptural thing. So what they're probably going to do, we have 3 go-up holidays a year. A 360-day, 12 months, 30 days a month, basically. That's your year. And 3 holidays you go up to Jerusalem. It's called going up. Like, I think the word is aliyah. I have to double check it, but you go up, okay? The rest of the time, I think on Shabbat, they'll have services in the synagogues. We might call them Kehillah at that point, in congregations or something, but I think the Levites will run it and we'll have them. And people are not going to have to, take a trek up, to Jerusalem on Shabbat. First of all, that would be not a real Shabbat because you'd be traveling on Shabbat, so you don't want to travel on Shabbat. So you would have to travel on Friday. You wouldn't be able to work on Friday. It would be awkward. So I don't think we're going to have that. I think we'll have meetings in the synagogues. That'll be correct. On the Talmuds aren't going to be in there anymore. They'll be put down the road out. You won't see them anymore. But probably get rid of them, burn them. I don't know what they'll do, but they won't be there. And the Torah, the real Bible on the scrolls, oh yeah, that'll be there. Why, gosh, you don't want to get rid of that. Why? I mean, they're beautiful on beautiful paper with big rollers. It's just Old Testament. Why in the world do we want to get rid of that? Well, it has vowel pointing. Some of them do, and some probably don't. But the vowel pointing is a corruption of the text. That it's not in the scriptures. The rabbis made that up to convince the people what we tell you is what this word means is what it means. They're the ones that wrote the vowel points. The prophets, the apostles, they never did that. It's the rabbis that did it. So I don't pay attention to that, but maybe for that reason some of the manuscripts would have to go. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about the manuscripts. So it's likely that we would probably go back to a synagogue system, but it would be walking distance from the houses. They have to have multiple, so you could just walk. The thing with using the car is not that you're kindling a fire. It's an inanimate machine. Okay, if you sit on the sofa on the Sabbath, are you going to say that's in against the Torah law because you're making the sofa work by supporting you? See how thick this could get? I'm going to try to teach you. The sofa is an inanimate object. It doesn't need a rest. It doesn't need water or food. It doesn't need air. If you put a plastic bag thing around your sofa and sucked all the air out of it and left it like that for 8 hours and came back and took the plastic off, would the sofa be just the same as it was before? Yeah. The sofa wouldn't die? No. A car is a sofa. It's a machine. But we're supposed to stay in our own place. Okay? So we generally don't use the car. Now, if you had an emergency and you had to go to the doctor, I would say then you just go. Get in your car and go. Okay? Like I don't know, you fell down and you gave yourself a compound fracture at 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. What are you supposed to do? Wait till dusk to go get treatment and bleed out? See what I'm saying? You gotta watch idiocy. So the Orthodox, now I'm going to get into idiocy. There's a Bic lighter where you flick it, right? Or a Zippo, you got a flint to spark it. Either, like, I don't know what it is, a propane gas or lighter fluid, like charcoal briquette lighter fluid or something. And you light it and you get a flame. And a lot of the ultra orthodox smoke. I guess they smoke smoking supply things. I don't cigarettes. I don't think they smoke pot unless they play the medical card. Okay, so they are taught that if you use your big lighter or a Zippo or something like that, you're kindling a fire. So what they do is I don't know if you know this, they have lighters that you can use these on candles and stuff. They have a battery and they got, I don't know the right word, electrodes in there. And you turn it on and it sizzles and you put your cigarette in on the thing, and it causes it to burn and catch fire. So they say, well, you didn't kindle the fire because you're doing it electrically. But if you used your Zippo, you see, I mean, don't you think that's going a little bit too far? I do. Let's go into some other things they do. If you turn a light on the Sabbath, you're, according to the ultra-Orthodox, kindling a fire. Because your light bulb has little, what do you call them, wires, electric things in there, and then they light up. Right? Now, I don't know, some of the new light bulbs with LEDs, maybe they don't, I don't know. They probably do. I'm not an expert on lighting, okay? Don't think that I know a lot about that, because I don't. I don't know what goes on with fluorescent lights and all this. I don't think I'm an expert, but they would say you can't put the light on the Sabbath because you would be kindling a fire by making that spark. Are you getting the message on this? Okay. So let me tell you a funny story so you could laugh a little bit. You know, we have these around our property. They're lights on the ground or sometimes on a fence. They're, I don't know, about this big. And they solar charge. So the sun charges them up. And they have motion detector, I think you call it. Yeah. So when the dog walks by it, it turns on. And I don't know how long it stays on, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. I don't know. Yeah, wait, I mentioned setting. I don't know. My wife said no. So, you know, the dogs trigger them, we trigger them. If a cat comes in, I love cats. Okay, I've had a lot of pet cats. I miss them. I love them. I like how they sleep with you, but they like to sleep higher than you on the top of your pillow, but that's how they are. Some of them will go under the covers, completely under the covers. I really like cats. My wife's allergic. We can't have it. Plus, with the dogs and the birds, it could be a war zone. So we don't have cats. But they trespass in the property, and the dogs, you know, they smell them here. The cats probably mark, and the dogs are completely dedicated against the cats. I mean, the cats are ISIS to them, you know. So they come around and they trigger the light. Now, a lot of people have these lights on part of their home by the street. Now, we don't, but some people do. Now, this is where it gets funny. I hope you can appreciate this. Mr. or Mrs. Ultra Orthodox, with the guy with the white shirt, the black hat, the black coat, black shoes, is walking by on the Sabbath. It would only apply to the Sabbath. And as he walks by the motion detector, his body presence causes the light to go on. And now he thinks he kindled the fire because he walked in front of the motion detector and he caused it to come on. Absurdity. Just like the Shabbat elevator from Friday to Saturday at dusk, you want to get down in your building, you don't want to press the button because you'd be making a spark or kindling a fire. So you set the machine to do it itself. And now it's not on you because the machine has like a computer and did it itself. Are you kidding me? So when you go get on the elevator's going to go up and down all Shabbat and stop on every single floor because it goes non-stop. So you didn't really cause it to do anything like when you walked in front of the motion detector light. You understand the difference? But this is lunacy. This is lunacy. Okay? There's a thing in Israel called a Shabbat refrigerator. We have one. By choice, that's all they stock. It was made in China. It's really a nice refrigerator. It's bigger than me. It's wide. It's deep. It's a nice box. We have the Shabbat feature disconnected. What happens? Leave it on for Shabbat. It has a like timer calendar, so it knows when it's Shabbat. You set it, and it knows how to do it. So you can also connect it to the internet, which we don't. So what it does on Shabbat is it stops the light from going on and off when you open the door of your refrigerator. Do you see the theater of the absurd yet? Okay. It also takes the motor and runs it very low all Shabbat. Enough to keep your food good for a day, but it doesn't turn the motor on and off, I don't think. It just stays at a very low level the whole 24 hours. We don't use the Shabbat feature. Okay, so now back to Kindle a Fire. So what do the ultra-Orthodox do? This is more theatery absurd for Shabbat. A lot of them have a propane powered stove. That's common in America, Israel, it's pretty common. We happen to have an electric now, but we've had the propane. So you got the propane, right? And you turn it on, like, I don't know, Friday, 4 o'clock. When you're getting close to Shabbat, you turn it on. They call it a Shabbat flame. So you don't turn your burner up all the way where the flame's that high. You probably go, quarter of an inch, 3/8 or something like that, right? A low flame. Now you can do that with 2 burners or 3 burners, and you leave it on the whole Shabbat. You don't turn it on or off. Why? So you can heat things up on Shabbat, but you're not kindling a fire because that fire was created before Shabbat. Now, when you turn your propane stove on, what are you consuming? Gas, not firewood. I mean, is that really kindling a fire, taking your finger and going like that? So with an electric stove, do they consider that kindling a fire? Well, I guess it would depend on the rabbi. I don't know. I don't know. What about an air fryer? Well, it's got a heat element, so they might say it's kindling a fire because the electric wire in there is going to get red hot. I don't know. Guys, there's no end to this. Okay? I don't think kindling a fire is. Now, the ultra-darks will agree with this one, I believe. A microwave. Turning on a microwave does not kindle a fire. I don't really think a convection oven is kindling a fire. I don't think a gas burner stove is really kindling a fire. Technically it is, but so now we're getting into the stage where people in the winter, it's 30 degrees outside, they have small children, so now they're in their house around Jerusalem. I've seen waist deep snow in Jerusalem. Let's say it's waist deep snow in the winter. It happened. I was there when it did. I was living about 3 miles out of Jerusalem, Mevaseret Zion. And I think it was about 3 miles, 4 miles maximum, something like that. And waist deep snow. So you got a 9-month-old baby, you got a 2.5-year-old baby, right? And you're going to be sitting in your house without doing anything to make heat. Is that a pleasant Shabbat for the children and you? Is that a day of rest? It's cold in here. If you want to take a hot shower, if you want to take an ice shower in Israel in the winter, well, it's very easy. You turn your water on in your shower and get in there and turn blue in the lips. No problem. Easy steezy. Now, what if you want a warm shower? Well, we all have solar heaters. It's mandatory for water, but when it's below 68, 70 degrees, it gets the water room temperature-ish. So you could, if it's not very cold, if it's 68, 70, you could tolerate a room temperature shower. To me, it's not that pleasant, but you would tolerate it. But if it's cloudy, you're not going to get there. If it's rainy, that means it's cloudy. You're definitely not going to get there. And if the temperature is below 60, you got to fire that thing up for a good 30 to 60 minutes, depending how cold it is. In my area, maybe 3 times a year or no times a year, it'll go down to 40 to 44 degrees in the middle of the night. But let's say it's 48 degrees or 50 degrees. You really got to crank that heater up for about an hour, 45 minutes anyway. Now, if the sun's out and it's clear skies, it'll happen in probably half the time because the sun will get some of the chill out of the water. So you're turning that hot water heater on so you don't get icicles when you're washing hands and stuff like that, right? Well, yeah, I mean, so you can't take a bath or wash your hands on the Sabbath with any comfort in the winter. In the summer, the soul is on, you have no trouble. So I don't think that's balanced. And then what the ultra Orthodox will say, oh, you just take yourself a shower Friday before the dusk, and then wait till Saturday when Shabbat's over, and then jump in the shower. Well, it's supposed to be a pleasant day of rest. You're not supposed to do servile regular work. You don't go to the office. You don't take your work home on Friday from the office and do it. Okay? You don't mow the lawn. You don't wash the car. Okay? If the baby has projectile vomiting and throws up on the rug of the floor, should you clean it up or wait till after Sabbath? I'd clean it up. It's not sanitary. If your dog has an accident and a piece of poops in the house, it's not sanitary. You clean it up. But you don't go and those are kind of unusual occurrence events. You don't go book work for yourself. Well, I'm gonna go mow the lawn and paint the barn today on Sabbath. That would be not the correct way to fly. Okay? But it really means you don't do your ordinary regular work. But you're not supposed to burden yourself with other things. You don't start moving furniture around. Okay? If your kitchen caught fire, would it be correct for you to say, I'm not going to put the fire extinguisher on it? That's work. I'm just going to go sit down outside and watch the house burn down. Of course not. You put the fire extinguisher on. So unusual, unexpected occurrences happen. Now, if you've got animals, which could be dogs, cats, birds, they need a Shabbat too. Don't have your bird pulling a plow unless you've got some amazing big condor bird or something. It's not happening, right? And your dog's not plowing the field, nor is your cat. But you still need to water and feed them on Shabbat, or they don't have a Shabbat. And if your animal falls into a ditch on Shabbat, you take it out, or your neighbor's animal. That's sort of in the genre of the dog had an accident in the house to clean it up. And, there's predictable planned work and there's unexpected things. Like, you got two 9-year-old boys in the house, they're twins, and they're playing baseball on Shabbat. And they hit a window and break the window, and outside it's 23 degrees. Should you put plastic tarp over the hole in the window with duct tape to stop the cold air from coming in, or wait till after Shabbat? Obviously, you stop it. So the unexpected emergency type things you can deal with. That's not your regular work. How can it be your regular work? You didn't know the kids are going to do it. Now, kids play on Shabbat. That's not work. They want to play tag, hide and go seek, red light, green light, or any of the other games, or they want to play card games, or they want to, that's what kids do. You let them play on Shabbat. Is that work? No. I wouldn't want them to see them, do excruciating things. If you're a jogger, should you go jogging on Shabbat? I don't think so, because it's a day of rest. The same with going to the gym. I wouldn't go. What about going out on Shabbat? Let's say you want to take the family out, get a movie, go to the mall, go to a restaurant. I wouldn't do it. You're making work for other people on Shabbat and you're participating, although they don't know the Lord, they don't follow the Lord. But I mean, you could do it, but again, what it really goes back to is not so much the making work, because they're going to kind of do it anyway. That's not the scripture. The scripture to not do that is stay in your own place, which is your own village. So if you want to go 8 houses down the street and hang out with, Max and Sadie, yeah, have a good time. Have coffee, have tea, have water, make popcorn, chew the fat, make popcorn in the microwave. Yeah, go ahead, have a good time. So what are some ways you could deal if you want to, deal with the food? One convenient way to do it is Friday afternoon. Make yourself PB&J sandwiches. Make yourself cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Take the tuna or the salmon and dump it into a bowl with the mayonnaise and the celery and the onions or whatever, however you like it. It's up to you, right? You could microwave TV dinners. You can do a lot of things, I wouldn't go and cook a grandiose meal because that's work for the woman, and the woman gets the Shabbat. Okay, you got to get this down. The woman gets a Shabbat. Now, it's one thing to change the baby's diaper, okay, but you don't want your wife or yourself cooking big meals. Now, how do you get around that? I'll tell you how we used to do it, and it works great. It's easy. Friday afternoon in Israel, most of the people are off work. So you go home before the Shabbat and you make yourself a big meal. I don't know what you like: steak, chicken, duck, quail, lamb, pizza, spaghetti, whatever you like, ravioli. I don't know what you like. Whatever you want. And you set it, you try to time it so before Shabbat, you set it out on the table, right? And you have the place settings, and then when Shabbat comes, you could have people, friends and family join you that live nearby. You don't want them driving 200 miles on Shabbat, somebody who lives a few houses down or something, they come over, or they can live, 2-3 blocks away or something, they come over and you sit there and you wait till you see you hit the Erev, which is the mixing of the day and night. That's when the Shabbat starts. We say Erev Tov. Tov means good. Erev means the mixing. And that's the mixing when the shadows are long, the day and night. You can still see, but it's That's when it actually starts and ends. Okay, not sundown. The rabbis created that one. It's the Erev. Okay, so sit down when the Shabbat starts and have yourself a big meal. Now, what could be a little bit more helpful in this venue in this regard? Use throwaway plates so you have a nice big plastic garbage bag, and people finish and they take the plate and they throw it in the garbage bag and they throw the silverware in the sink. Or you could just leave the dishes there till after Shabbat, or whatever, however you want to play. But don't go do the dishes on Shabbat. You can leave them there; it'll be fine. The only one it won't be fine is if you got cats and dogs, and when you go to sleep, they're going to decide that it's their Shabbat and they're going to have their Shabbat meal, But you got to watch that. Okay, you got to find the system. You can put the remaining food, pick it up and put it in the refrigerator. But to go tell that member of the family that they're going to be cooking a big meal on Shabbat is the pits. You don't want to do that. It's rest. It's rest. So you can do workarounds. Make yourself PB and J's and tuna and peanut butter and jelly or cream cheese and jelly or whatever you like. You can use almond butter and jam on it, whatever you like. Throw them in the fridge. Plastic bag or whatever you want to do. You could open a can of sardines on Shabbat and dump it in a plate and eat it, right? Why not? Or salmon or tuna. I like to buy fish eggs. They're cheap in Israel for some reason. The black ones and the red ones. I mean, they're really cheap. I don't understand it. It's like cheap caviar or almost caviar. Just eat them. I like it. They're salty. That's not so great, but I enjoy it. Could eat it out of the jar because I'm the only one that eats it. My wife won't go near it. The dogs would probably eat it, but I don't feed fish eggs to dogs. If I had a cat, I'd probably give the cat a little bit because cats go crazy for fish. They get crazy. It's like an alcoholic and Johnny Water. The cat goes, and Johnny Walker, the cat goes nuts for fish. Anyway, so you really want to try to hit the Sabbath for real. You don't want to work on Sabbath. And you don't want to take car trips and going out and doing stuff, going to the ball game and stuff like that. Okay, let's say you lived across the street from Yankee Stadium or something like that, right? Hypothetically. And you wanted to go watch the ball game on Shabbat. So you walked the block, you went inside, and you paid money, and, you're not working. It doesn't say in the Ten Commandments that you shall not carry money or pay money. They get into fine points. The nations, the Goyim, don't pay attention to Shabbat. So if you engage them in commerce, it's not Israel. It takes it to another level other than what the scriptures say. What's your safest way of playing it? Stay in your own place. Stay in your own neighborhood. That's the best way to play it. Okay, which means you don't need a car to stay in your own neighborhood. Although you could, if you wanted to, use the car to drive a block or two. The car isn't really work and actually saves work. So there's great liberality in this, but the big thing, make it a holy special day. Don't work, and and stay in your own place. Don't be doing that. Can you watch TV or a movie or go on the internet? Of course you can. Unless you're going to start in with the electric spark, which is silly. Can you take a shower or a bath? Well, can you go to the bathroom on Shabbat? Well, what about wiping? I'm sorry to get a little gross. Well, that's work. See, this is the idiocy of what the rabbis introduced. Okay? They wear shoes on Shabbat that are slides. so they don't have to tie the shoelaces. You see how you have to watch yourself where you get so carried away? It's servile work, your regular, ordinary work. Now, for the housewife, that's cooking and cleaning. She doesn't clean on Shabbat unless it's an emergency event, and she doesn't cook. But if you have little kids that can't take care of themselves, and they're, Mommy, I'm hungry. Shut up, it's Shabbat. Wait till dusk. Don't ever ask me again till the sun goes down. Is that a good Shabbat for the kid? You see, you have to have the correct balance. Okay? The Shabbat's good for your animals, work animals, domestic animals, animal animals. If you got a pet turtle, it applies. Goldfish, it applies. Okay? Any living thing, it applies. Okay? A plant, I don't know, but what does a plant need on Shabbat anyway, you know? I don't want to say things to you like, if this really bothers you, just use the microwave, because that plants the seed for fanaticism, for people to go off and play holier than thou, okay, using this. And that is a problem. And they sure have done it with the Shabbat, you know. They've really done it. They really have made it. And the church just ignores the Shabbat and changes it to another day of the week to wipe their feet on the Ten Commandments and the law of God. It's ridiculous what they do. That's theoretically absurd, you know. The church is absurd, okay? But on the other hand, they will tell you murdering is wrong. You know, does that make them correct? No, they get a couple of things right here and there, but it doesn't make them correct. Okay. Spetsnaz, what's that? Is that some sort of a Nazi uniform? No. It says in the law that you will not mix wool and linen. Specifically says wool and linen. And this probably stems from the priesthood wearing linen that won't cause sweat. I don't know if you ever had linen clothes or a linen shirt or something. I've had several. They're pretty nice. They got a cool feature to them, you know. So we could have a wool shirt or pants or hat. Actually, this is synthetic. This is cotton. And the jeans are cotton. So I don't know how to put it all together today, but if you took linen and mixed it with a synthetic, would that break it? Well, there's things about mixing it, but I don't think it would. I think it's specific to wool and linen. And you keep those two separate. So what did the rabbis do to mess with this? Spetsnaz. What's that? Certified clothing that doesn't mix wool and linen. They examine the fabric under microscope to make sure their wool sports jacket, for instance, has no linen in it. Perhaps the same factory makes linen garments on the left side of the factory, and on the right side they make wool in it. A garment, a couple of strands got mixed in, so I examined it with a microscope. Is this nuts? Do you see how they get? They won't use their phone on Shabbat because it creates a spark when you get a call. You see, they ignore the weightier things of the law. These same people will go out and lie in court and sue their friends, neighbors, business associates, and rip them off. But they'll go overboard on the Sabbath. They won't turn a light on in the Sabbath. but they'll lie, cheat, and steal. They'll take advantage of the widow, the orphan, the stranger, the crippled, anybody they can, people poorer than them. These are the real important things, okay? Because we can't do temple sacrifices today, but soon we will, but today for Shabbat, it doesn't mean we ignore Shabbat. We have to ignore the aspect of Shabbat with the offerings because there's no place to do them, no priesthood, etc., so you can't do it. Okay? But we don't ignore the Shabbat. And we don't ignore the other matters in the law. There's a lot of things. Okay? So we don't go to fanaticism with Shabbat elevators and Spetsnaz microscopically inspected certified clothing. There's no place in the Bible where the rabbis, the Levites, the Kohanim, whoever, are supposed to be inspecting the food. They not only inspect the food, well, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back. I'm going to get into with you the absurdity of what they've done with the food in the law. And you'll be shocked. We're going to talk about kosher, guac kosher, and the hedron. You probably never heard of these other things. They even kosher the water in Israel, which is absurd. How can you have kosher water or clean water and unclean water? Well, you can throw sewage in the water, but I mean, I'll get into it with you in a minute. So the rabbis have taken this clean food thing and made it into a money-making enterprise of immense proportion. Now, Moses' law specifies animals, fish, birds, land animals that are clean and not clean. Okay? Now, it's important to understand that fruits and vegetables are all clean. There's no scripture that says a pomegranate that's red is clean and a brown one isn't. You know, there's none of that. You know, if you want to be a moron, you could go cook yourself some poison ivy and eat it. Just like you could have a poison mushroom. But that, or you know, something like that. But that's idiocy. You know. So the rabbis have created Mehedrin kosher for fruits and vegetables at tremendously high prices. Now, how does that work? Well, if you buy, I don't know, a pear or something like that, right? It's not supposed to have any little tiny bugs in it that you can't see with the eye, because the bugs are unclean, according to Moses' law. So you can't eat that. So if you're not eating Mehedrin fruit and vegetables, you're eating microscopic bugs and unclean critters, and therefore you're breaking Moses' law. Would this technically be correct? Yes. Because these are, worm kind of things, larvae, unclean things to eat, even though they're small. Okay? Let's go to the next level of absurdity. Glatt kosher. Glatt. Glatt kosher means the animal, let's call it a lamb, a cow, was raised on land that has no unclean animal on it. Okay. Sounds good, right? But we're in this theory of the absurd. So, if a wild boar, which is a pig, gets into the cow pen looking to eat the cow's food and poops in the cow pen after he ate, the cows are no longer clean animals. Gee, how does that work? It doesn't. So let's take the black kosher plot of land. Okay. There are animals that are unclean. A vulture, birds, lizards, worms, bugs of various kind, and all kinds of different birds are unclean. I guess a crow's unclean and stuff, right? So a squirrel can come in, that's unclean, so forth. Well, I'd really like to know how they keep the birds out of this glatt kosher land. They can't. I don't know how they could do it. So an unclean bird comes around, eats stuff and poops, It's, how do you do it? You'd have to put a big tarp. You'd have to raise the animal indoors, basically. Even then, how would you get rid of the creeping critters? I have no idea. I don't think you could. How are you going to keep a housefly? A housefly's not clean in Moses' law, where you can catch houseflies and fry them and eat them or dip them in chocolate or something, So it's absurd. Now comes regular kosher. That's absurd too. It's just a way for them to make money. In Israel, only an ultra-Orthodox rabbi can declare food clean. So they get a monopoly. Netanyahu lets them have that, and the other prime ministers did. They make a fortune. Only in glatt kosher does the Let's call it the farm where the animals are raised, get declared kosher. So the animal shows up, the cow, the lamb, whatever, shows up at the slaughterhouse, and the slaughterhouse is got a kosher certificate, so they're paying the rabbi. Okay? And he might show up once or twice a year, or maybe every 3 months for an hour or two, Basically, it's tribute, Then it goes to a supermarket, let's say. They get declared kosher. Okay? Then you go and buy it. Or let's say then it goes, it goes to a meat packing house, and then it goes to a restaurant, and the restaurant gets declared kosher. You're paying all along the way to this. So the food is much more expensive. So we go to supermarkets that aren't kosher, and you can go there and buy the same cow or lamb or chicken. It's just not endorsed by the Talmudic rabbis, which I could care less about. You can't really get unclean food in Israel if you weren't looking for it, which I don't. The only thing you're really going to find is shrimp, because the Arabs eat shrimp. They don't eat pork, but they eat shrimp. Oh, they'll eat lobster and crab, and I think they eat clams and oysters. I don't follow them too much, but I think they do. I know they eat shrimp. So the Russian people import ham, pork products from Russia, but I think if a person ate that imported from Russia, I don't know. I think you might be asking yourself for a case of, instead of Montezuma's revenge, Putin's revenge or something. I don't know, but I never go near anything from Russia. They kosher water in Israel. Let's see if I can show it to you. I'm going to put my thumb right under the word kosher in Hebrew. It's got kosher on it. This is really nice water. Comes from some other. Oh, I think it comes from the country of Georgia. It's natural spring water. It's really good. How do you kosher water? I mean, can you understand the absurdness here? So they've taken many things to an absurd level, and we have to be careful that this gets extinguished, that we don't propagate it to people coming into the faith. But now I'm going to check the live stream real quick. They say that the microwave doesn't use any kind of flame or something like that. That's why they they kind of go for the microwave. Gotta get rid of the garbage. So I think we're in the last stage. Read Zechariah 12. We're just about into that. Yeah, we are. Read Zechariah 12. Okay. Now, I'm looking for scripture. Hang on. All right, we'll start in Acts 10. Now, some of you are going to find this controversial. And all I can do is urge you to follow the scriptures. And let me explain them to you, and that's all I can do. I know that people have run away from me for teaching this, but the Lord for a few days is telling me it's time to teach it again. So I'm going to teach it, okay? And it's essential for the sake of the others coming in that don't know much, okay? Yeah, the law is not dead, but let's look at everything. Remember, Yeshua changed a lot of things in the law. And God did. Many things have changed. The law changes, but what doesn't change is how you treat your fellow man, and your wife and your kids, and how you do business and all that. That never changes. Okay. There was a certain man in Caesarea, that's where Netanyahu has his house, called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian Band. A devout man and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayers to God always. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of God coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thy alms are come up for a memorial before God. And now send men to Jaffa. It's not Jaffa, it's Jaffa. And it's near Haifa, it's a port area. And call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter, Apostle Peter. He lodgeth with one Simon, a tanner. That means he makes leather, probably sandals, maybe, I don't know, whose house is by the seaside. See, so if you make leather from a horse and you use sandals and you're touching it, you're walking on an unclean animal hide and stuff like that. You see, that's not the scripture. Oh, by the way, if somebody wants to be a vegan, a vegetarian, or you know, the kind that eat all the meat. What are they? I forgot what they call it already. They just eat meat. I don't know. You know, you leave them alone. Let them do it. If they say you have to do this because of the law, that's error. But if they just say this is what they do, because they like it, it works better with their system, or they leave them alone. Eating meat, not eating meat doesn't break the law. Eating fruits and vegetables, not eating meat doesn't break the law. Eating meat, not eating fruits and vegetables doesn't break the law. Okay? If they try to eat poison ivy, stop it. I'm kidding. Okay. He lodges with one son. Okay. Simon the Tanner, whose house is by the seaside, he shall tell thee what thou oughtest to do. And when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed, he called two of his household servants and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he had declared all these things to them, he sent them to Jaffa. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the house to pray about the 6th hour. So I guess he went up on the roof. Be outside, fresh air, quiet, nobody to watch you, you know. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but they made ready. While they made ready, he fell into a trance. So he's not sleeping, like he didn't go to bed and go to sleep, but he's not, you know, just seeing it, kind of like a vision thing. You'll know it if it happens to you. It's like, you know, you're not really asleep, but you're not really there either, you know. And saw heaven opened and a certain vessel descend unto him, as it had been a great sheet, knit at the four corners, and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creepy things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. So this is about common and unclean food. It was pictures of animals. He saw depictions of animals. And he said, I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spake unto him again, the second time, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common, or junk. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received again into heaven. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen would mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house, and stood before the gate, and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said to him, Behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise therefore and get thee down, go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent to him from Cornelius, and said, Behold, I am he whom you seek. What is the cause wherein you are come? And they said, Cornelius, a centurion, a just man, and one that feareth God, and of good report among all the nations of the Jews, was warned from God by a holy angel to send for thee into his house, and to hear words of thee. Okay. And then the next day he goes off to see him. All right. Now, did God show Peter a sheet coming down from heaven with pictures of people from the Gentile nations? No. Did he show Peter images or depictions of animals? Yes. Now, is this talking about God telling Peter, look, I have cleaned these people that have eaten what Moses' law calls unclean food, and therefore you should accept them? Because the Jews back then wouldn't, and the ultra-Orthodox today, don't really go in houses of non-ultra-Orthodox, and they don't want you touching anything in their house, not sitting on the furniture, and they don't want you in the house, they want you in the house. They don't even want to ride an elevator with you, because you could be a menstruating woman, or maybe you touched a menstruating woman and they could get unclean. I mean, okay. So, is this about the animals? That you could eat all the animals? Obviously it is. Is it about the people that eat these animals and now clean? It is. It's both. The reason for them being clean is he cleaned the animals. You can't just go to a wife and write her out a get, a bill of divorce, and say hit the road code. It has to be for adultery, or if the spouse moves away on you, disappears from you. She takes a hike, goes to live in Spain or Antarctica or something like that, you're under no obligation, according to Paul, which is good enough for me. So, this is what he did. And the reason I walked it through with all this kosher insanity is to give you a sense of one of the reasons why I believe Yeshua did this, because the absurdity of people trying to create the holier than thou with all the wrong things, the weightier things of the law, how you treat your countrymen, how you treat your family, how you do business, how you treat the widow, the orphan, the poor, the crippled, the blind, or, you know, how you treat your animals is important too. You know, how you treat the stranger, the newcomer. You know, these are the weightier things to the law. He wants mercy. Not that you throw the law out the window, but that's why the food got clean. So, could you eat an unclean animal and not have it count as sin today? According to the Acts 10, yes. Yes. When they were talking, let me find you this scripture. Hold on a minute. And to us, to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessary things. Now, this is an apostle saying it came from the Holy Spirit. That you abstain from meats offered to idols. Now, that is something you should report. Okay? You should avoid halal meat, the Muslim meat, because they offer it to some strange god or something like that. I believe it's illegal in Israel. I never even saw it here, but if they sell it in your country, don't eat it. And from blood. Now, you don't eat meat with the blood in it. You don't drink blood. It says you drain the blood out on the floor from the meat. Let me keep going. And from things strangled, and from fornication, from which if you keep yourselves, you shall do well, fare ye well. Now, he didn't say eat only clean food, did he? No. But he talked about food a lot, didn't he? Yes. Don't eat food sacrificed to idols. Don't eat it with the blood in it or drink the blood. I mean, they got cheeses they make with animal blood, right? I don't remember what they call it. They got a name for it. I don't know what it is. They got soups with blood in it, sauces for meat. You know, it's disgusting. You know, don't engage in that. So how did the rabbis pervert this? There's a thing called the salt covenant. For the food being put on the altar for the Lord, you're supposed to salt it first to get the blood out. Okay? But that's only pertaining to the meat going on the altar in the temple. They have expanded that to food in the house. So what they do when they kosher the food at the food plant, and the rabbis are supposedly supervising, they take big chunks of salt, sort of what you'd use if you've been in a cold climate when there's snow and sleet and slush and freezing. Like during the day, the sun comes out and the snow melts, and then when the sun goes down, it goes below 32 and it freezes. So they throw salt on the ice, and it absorbs the water, and then you could walk without taking a flyer, you know, slipping. They use that kind of salt, that size usually, something like it. So they put it all over the meat, and they let it sit for a while. I don't remember how many hours. They have a rule. Then they wash it thoroughly with water. Now, right now, you ruined the taste of the meat and you toughened it up. But they're not finished. They're laughing at the people. They go back and do it again. More salt and let it sit, and then wash it off a second time. The meat tastes like garbage at this point. It does. And their psychology to this is the rabbis build a fence around the law, so you don't cross into breaking the law. So they're making a new set of laws, is what they're doing. No place in the Bible does it say to build a fence around the law or do that. So the Holy Spirit didn't tell them that you can only eat clean food. But again, you don't eat strangled food. That's sick. You're also told not to eat an animal cooked in the mother's milk. That's so sick I can't even, I don't even, it bothers me to even read that. And you shouldn't eat meat sacrificed to an idol, because somebody could see you doing it and they'll think it's okay, and then they could start getting snared and serving that idol. You should stay away from that. Okay? Is meat that's kosher sacrificed to an idol? Well, I wouldn't put anything past them, but I have no reason to believe they do that. But again, I don't know. But there's no documentation or knowledge or evidence of that. But I rarely buy kosher food. I buy food from usually the Arab markets. And there are places that are not Arab, they just sell non-kosher stuff. And it's much cheaper and tastes so much better. That's where we go. We frequently use restaurants that are not kosher, but I also use restaurants that are kosher, but we don't eat out anymore. I mean, I haven't gone to a restaurant in at maybe 6 months, probably maybe a year. Then we have a food delivery maybe once a month, maybe every 8 weeks or something. We really just don't bother with it. It's so expensive and it's not that good. And, you know, I like real Chinese food, you know, like chow mein, chow fun, wontons. They have different soups, egg drop soup. You know, you could get it with chicken, you could get it with beef, you could get it with all kinds of stuff. Shrimp, you could get it with pork, whatever people want to get it with. You could get it with, and it's not sweet, and I remember it's been so many years. What else did I used to eat in the Chinese restaurants? I can't remember. There was a chow mein and there was a chop suey, fried rice that's brown. I used to love that. The soups I loved. The egg rolls I loved. Um, all the stuff I really liked. But the Chinese restaurant in Israel are just, they puke. The best of them, they put sweeteners, in other words, high glycemic index stuff, in the dishes, and it's all sweet. I guess that's what these people like here. It's awful. I mean, it's palatable, but it's not real Chinese food. Then you can get pad Thai, which is almost approaching Thai food in a way. It's kind of not really authentic either. They don't make the fried rice correct here. It's not browned. It's kind of off color white. They don't do that right. You can get a heck of a pizza here, man. You can get really good pizza. I mean, really good pizza. Um, but pizza's not a real healthy, great dish, you know. So the Thai food is better than the Chinese food. The Chinese food's not, in my mind, Chinese food. I tried Chinese food in Jerusalem, pure crap. No flavor, just junk. I've tried it in Tiberias, again, no flavor, junk. Just junk. The other places have the sweet stuff. You know, they'll sell Thai food, they'll sell Chinese food, and they'll sell sushi and sashimi. With the kosher food, it's they kind of get the rice almost right for sushi, and it's not bad, but it's not good either. It's in the middle, you know. It's okay and expensive, and why bother with it, you know? There's a place that delivers Philly cheesesteak. That's nice for junk food, you know. I mean, expensive junk food, but it tastes good. Um, there's not much else I can get. I can get hamburgers, and they make a salad with meat in it, chicken strips. I think it's pretty good. There's a few places we could order from, but it's expensive and it's not very good. I'd rather just eat home, you know? Why bother with this other stuff? It's not good. What's the point of it if you're going to get expensive takeout and it's not good food? What am I accomplishing? You know, not much. So we got to be careful about, you know, taking things in the law. And a lot of people of people are having, they have trouble because they have trouble with the woman thing too. I suffer a woman not to teach nor usurp authority over the man. They can't, they choke on that. Okay, has there been women apostles? No. Was there a woman prophet in the old days? Yeah, but she said she shouldn't be a prophet, but the men insisted, so she did it. She knew it was wrong, she didn't want to do it, but nobody else was stepping up, so she did. Okay? Were there ever women high priests? No. Were there ever women Kohanim? No. Were there ever women Levites? No. I mean, they could be from the tribe of Levi, but they weren't functioning in the temple. Okay? Was there ever a woman king of Israel called the queen? No. It says that the elder should be the husband of but one wife. It doesn't say the elder should be the wife of one husband. When we talk about them marrying multiple wives in redemption, it says the 7 women shall circle a man and say, we'll buy our own clothes and food, just let us have your name. It doesn't say 7 men are going to marry one woman. You see, it's not there. It's just a way they create disunity in the church. The women have plenty of roles. Can women witness to people? Of course they can. Okay, do the gifts of the Spirit, including prophecy and faith and healing and tongues and interpretation and all of that, happen to the woman as well as the man? Yes. Yes. But the woman doesn't hold the ministry office. She can walk in the gifts of the Spirit. She doesn't hold the ministry office. But you'll have plenty to do in redemption because there's going to be a massive amount of kids. It's all about God. And then it's going to be after God, it's going to be all about the family. And then after the family, it's going to be all about your fellow Israelites. Now, if somebody's in Yeshua, they're in Israel. Now, if they're purple, green, scarlet, any color, it means nothing. The amount of melanin in the skin to change the color of the skin doesn't preclude a person from being able to accept Yeshua. And don't even go there with this nonsense. Okay, and how the heck do you know one of the 10 tribes was not Chinese, Korean, Japanese, that's yellow, right? Black, or olive-colored skin, or what, you don't know. How do you know? What about North American Indians? So don't get into that stuff. It doesn't matter. That, when you get into that, you're into the flesh. It means nothing. It's the heart. It's the spirit. It doesn't matter where their passport is from. We're not going to have passports anyway. Pretty soon you can forget that one. We're not going to, what country you're from, or what language you spoke, or what education you had or didn't have. Maybe you never went to school a day in your life. Again, it's as stupid as saying you're a vegan, you can't be a believer. You're a vegetarian, I'm not sure I know the difference between a vegan and a vegetarian. You're a vegetarian, you can't be. Of course I could be a believer. Keto, that's it, keto. You're on keto, you can't be a believer. You could, listen, if someone comes to you and say, listen, all I eat is strawberry cheesecake, would that preclude them from the kingdom of heaven? No. Would that be a rather stupid way to live? I think so. But it's not breaking the scripture. If they want to walk around living on strawberry cheesecake, you should tell them it's a dumb thing to do, and try to get them off that. But, the point of this discussion, it's not breaking the scripture. if you want to eat Haagen-Dazs ice cream, you're not breaking the scripture. But again, you got to watch out for stupidity. Eating poison ivy would be a stupid thing to do. Okay? Stupid. Would I want to eat a Komodo dragon? I don't think so. I don't think I really want to eat a gator or a croc or anything. There's a lot of things that, you could do that are not that great of an idea to do. You know what I mean? Like wine. Somebody wants to drink wine with their meal and stuff like that. Let them drink wine with their meal. Getting drunk is the problem. What's drunk? Well, for me, probably that much wine, or maybe that much would be not that one, probably that much would be half a glass would be intoxicating for me because I don't use the stuff. But for others, they might be able to drink one glass or even two glasses with a meal and then have no intoxication. They wouldn't be intoxicated, maybe get a little relaxed or something, but they wouldn't be, drunk or lose control or talk sloppy and slur. They could do that. You know? So it's getting drunk is the problem. Okay? That's your issue. Hard liquor should probably be refrained from. It says give it to the one that's about to perish or something. Yeah. It's the wine we keep reading about. It's the wine. And from what I understand, my wife studied it, the wine was more diluted than what we're used to today. So you probably could use it as a beverage and it's probably more like a beer. You know? You could have a beer too. I don't use this stuff, but you could. Just don't get drunk. And don't make a snare for somebody that was drinking a fifth of scotch a day and got into a rehab, recuperated from that. And you're going to sit there and drink a glass of wine and go, oh, this is delicious. Oh, the flavor, the aroma, the bursting of the flavors is so good. That's snaring your brother. You don't do that. Okay? You don't do that. You don't want to do that to your brother. So you don't go off on the what ifs. And what about medical marijuana? I don't know. As a medicine, I don't know. That's kind of a gray area thing. Why are they taking it? And then how much are they taking, and how stoned are they getting? I wouldn't want to do that stuff with a 10-foot pole. In years past, I've been to the dentist and they gave me their pain meds when they do like a root canal or something like that. And that gets you a little bit weird. And if you ever had a bad cough and they gave you codeine medicine, it gets you a little weird, but you're more or less groggy-ish than doing stupid things without your inhibitions. It's you'd have to really take a lot of that stuff and then you would just fall asleep. But I would suggest that people stay away from marijuana and opium and that kind of thing unless it's being used for some kind of pain medical treatment or something like that. The same for stimulants like cocaine. But I don't know about the cocaine. The cocaine in a lot of cultures is used. They chew the leaves, not the synthesized powder, and they use it to tolerate high altitudes for oxygen and menstrual cramps for women. So I don't know. I think we'd do best without any of that, altogether. And use healing for prayer. We'll be in redemption. I don't think there'll be any need for it at all. So just slough it off. I don't think we have any need for it. What the nations do is what the nations do. The heathen. But we will have no need for it. So the wine you can do. Or the beer. I would say stay away from the hard alcohol. But the beer, no. Hard alcohol is not a pleasurable drink like a nice glass of wine. Although I don't like the wine because it makes me sleepy. I just don't care for the stuff. You know, it's not. I don't like. I don't like losing my ability to reason. And, the same with the beer. And for a while, I bought this beer that had zero alcohol, not near beer, zero beer. Was it tasty? Gosh, yes. It tasted just like Heineken. Um, they had no alcohol at all, but I mean, it was enjoyable, but it was an expensive indulgence with a high glycemic, high carb drink that you don't need. Uh, this mineral water is great on a hot day. Oh, it's lovely. I can just do with the water. And I love my coffee. Are you going to crash on people because coffee's a stimulant and stuff like that? It's a very mild stimulant. Look, too much of anything is not going to be good. Peaches are good, but if you have 11 peaches in a row, you're probably not going to feel so good. Um, so what else can I tell you? So I gave you a trip into the hysteria of what the rabbis have done to the people. And a lot of the people you'll be undoing are victims of this. It's another form of churchianity is what it is. Okay. Let me see what's going on here. Wait 1 second. Someone said when I quoted Matthew 5:17, I said not to take Yeshua's words literally. I don't believe that was today, was it? Oh, I did quote it today. I said, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Well, let's deal with this. Moses' law said you want to get rid of your wife, give her a get. Yeshua said you want to get rid of your wife, it has to be for adultery. That's a change in Moses' law. The anointed prince in the temple in Ezekiel 45 is a change in Moses' law. There's no more Kohen Gadol, the high priest. There's no more Urim and Thummim. There's no more breastplate with the 12 stones. I could go all day long and show you the changes in the law. Now, there's people, when I taught you were only supposed to do Passover in Israel, and that's why there was a second month Passover. So if someone was out of Israel, they could come back to Israel and do the Passover. People got really crazy with me because they are going to rub Jewishness on themselves. And I am not allowed to take it away from them. I'm not trying to take it away from them. I'm trying to tell them what the law says. And we're going to have a Passover in our country, and we're going to do the Seder here. We're going to do this here. And they just won't give up. Okay? They won't give up. They're just going to hang on to it and hang on to it because they're setting themselves different from everybody else. They're going to be super believers. Okay? And right along with that is eating clean food, but a lot of them will just go kosher. You meet a lot of them that are non-Israelite born and they're not in the church and they're only going to buy kosher food. I meet them in Israel all the time. I meet some that know some that just eat mehedrin and block kosher or kosher. You see, it's absurd. It's absurdity. And they won't let go. And these people would be dangerous in redemption because they will try to cram these things down the people's throats. The Spetsnaz clothes, glot kosher, mehedrin kosher, kosher. You shall not cook the baby in the mother's milk. So that for that they say the restaurants, and this is what they do, the ultra orthodox. The restaurants are either dairy or flesh, meat or dairy. So the dairy restaurants can serve fish for some crazy reason I don't understand because they don't make any sense. But it can't serve, beef or lamb or that kind of thing. So any meat. So if you're in a fish restaurant and you order coffee, they'll give you milk or cream for the coffee. If you're in a meat restaurant and you order coffee, they'll only give you non-dairy creamer because you can't use a dairy product in a meat restaurant. You see how sick it gets? It gets worse. In the kosher houses, they have called the kosher kitchen. But they made it up. It has two sinks, one sink for dairy and fish, and it has another sink, not the other half of the sink, another sink like 6 feet away that has for the meat. So they don't mix the meat and the dairy and the fish. Why? I have no idea. I have no idea. They also have 2 refrigerators. Yes, they do. This is all real. They have a dairy, which is your fish and dairy refrigerator, and they have a meat refrigerator. And I guess they put the fruit and vegetables in either one. Of course, you could have, say, potatoes in a dairy restaurant with your fish, and you could have potatoes with a lamb chop in a, French fried potatoes, let's say, with a, with that. Okay. So when you start throwing Acts 10 out the window and saying that it was pertaining to the people, not the food, you're missing the whole point of it and you're perverting it because he showed him the animals. And when he showed him the animals, he wasn't saying, I'm cleaning people. He was saying the animals are clean, so the person is clean. That's what he did. The other versions of it is illogical and error. And people that promote this are very dangerous to redeemed Israel because they will start harping on this with the people and bringing the people into things that Yeshua did change. You'd have to be a liar to say Yeshua never changed the Lord. Just go to the divorce. Go to the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. Go to the anointed prince. Where's the apostle in Moses' law? Where's the office of an apostle? He said some in the church, apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, and evangelists. They had no evangelists in the old days. They weren't evangelizing. It's a legitimate office, but they didn't have it back then. They didn't have the apostles' office either. The Holy Spirit was only given to the king, the prophet, and the high priest, the Kohen Gadol. Yeshua changed it. It was given to all the believers. And the gifts of the Spirit are now given to all the believers. So many things changed. You'd have a list like this. And these people are clinging to it because they're rubbing Jewishness on themselves and they won't let go. Jewishness is rabbinical stuff. Rub the Bible on you, not the Jewishness, the rabbinical stuff. That's what these people get confused with. You know? How many believers celebrate Rosh Hashanah that's not in the Bible for celebration? It's unbelievable. And they go out and buy Manhattan food, kosher food. We were going to split a side of beef or something with somebody a long time ago. And they said, yeah, as long as you have a rabbi kosher, it will kick in with you. I wasn't going to have the rabbi kosher because then it's going to be salted and washed, and it's going to be ridiculous. You know? So Acts 10 is both. It's the food clean and the people that eat the food are not unclean because the food is not unclean. That's the true, correct interpretation. And the people that refuse to let go are kicking against Yeshua for reasons that are wrong. There's some kind of disturbance in the spirit, and they're not right, okay? And there are people that will keep kicking against this, and people kick against the woman thing. You know, what are we supposed to do? Just sit home and feed the kids? Well, that's a sad way of putting it, but they don't hold the offices, okay? And people don't like that one either. And there's a lot of things, but you can't let the people come here in redemption and start teaching the Israelites crap, okay? You can't do it. When it goes against the teachings of Yeshua, you can't do it. And Acts 10 is God's teaching. And when you start getting away from that, you're messed up. And that era is going to bring in other eras. There's nobody in the New Testament, no place anywhere, that says anybody is going to the pit or the lake of fire for eating unclean food. When you read about in the Old Testament, reading the mouse and the pig in the trees in the forest, what's going on there is they're out in the woods having celebrations to the demons and eating the unclean food as part of it. But you know, they would be down in the restaurants in the opening markets eating the pork and stuff also. But he didn't select them out for this. He selected these people because they were doing unclean spirit rituals in the woods. And that was just a part of it, was eating the unclean food. But there's nowhere in the New Testament that people are getting to the lake of fire in the New Testament for eating unclean food. You can't find it. It's not in it. It's just not there. Look for it. You won't find it. So there's people that are going to denial and they just won't let up. A lot of them have been hurt and they, from phony pastors, and they cling on to something, okay? And they won't let go. And they come out from among you because they were not of you. Hang on a second. Yes. I come right now. I come now. Okay, bye. 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 All right, guys. I got to go. So please pray for me and my wife. I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.